The top drivers in the Precision Racing League Cup Series are tonight. After a competitive start to the season at Chicagoland 2 weeks ago, which seen a duel for the ages between Dallas Pataska and Richard Reagan Jr., 30 of the best drivers in iRacing are all set to go for the virtual Watkins Glen International. A tough road course which can bite any driver across the entire iRacing service. The question's going to be, who will take home the victory tonight? We're about to see on the Global SimRacing Channel. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the virtual Watkins Glen International in Watkins Glen, New York, for the second race of the Precision Racing League Cup Series season. I'm Justin Prince. Alongside the booth tonight is Christian Challoner. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. As the drivers make their way around the track for practice, let's take a look at your GSRC lap guide to see the best way to make it around this 8-turn circuit.
Welcome to Watkins Glen International. Situated in upstate New York just south of the Finger Lakes, this track has seen it all. Few road circuits can boast hosting Formula One, IndyCar, NASCAR, and IMSA during its history. Though it did have a brief fallow period in the early 80s, thanks to the investment of local companies, it's grown into one of the premier road tracks in the U.S. With 4 layouts to choose from that range between 2.5 and 3.5 miles in length, lap times can vary greatly. But it also means it's suitable for lots of different levels of racing, from amateur to pro. The one thing that stays consistent no matter which car and which layout you're using is that Watkins Glen means speed. Many of the straights are very long, and the majority of the corners are fast sweepers. Some of them include a surprising amount of banking as well. Combine that with the proximity of the barriers, and this historic circuit retains a very old-school feel. Drivers in lesser-powered cars can expect drafting battles, while higher-powered machinery will test the skill and bravery of their pilots. Some of the turns are visually iconic, such as the carousel and the S's. Others, like the inner loop, the chute, and Turn 9, greatly challenge even the expertly skilled. And of course, we haven't even mentioned the drastic amount of elevation change drivers experience. Between its rich history and popularity among drivers, this track stays busy and seems likely to be that way for a long, long time.
That was a look at your Global SimRacing Channel lap guide for the best way around Watkins Glen International. Well, let's put in my broadcast partner with a strong resume, to say the very least, for the NASCAR Peak and Freeze iRacing Series, Christian Challoner. Christian, what are your thoughts when it comes to Watkins Glen and what to expect on this 8-turn road course?
Well, I think for these guys, this is probably one of the funnest tracks that they actually go to. The road courses are always really fun. I'm definitely a big fan of them. The circuits that I normally do quite well at, and Watkins is actually my favorite of them. It's a very different 2.5 mile track than used to, not the same kind of 2.5 mile track as, say, Daytona, but definitely a different challenge. It's going to be very tricky tonight here. It's been very difficult to drive this car this week, especially through the uphill S, as you'll see a lot of guys struggling through there, and I think tire management is going to be the name of the game tonight.
And that can be crucial here on this 2.45 mile racetrack today, and it's a blistering hot one. We'll get to that in just a moment, but we'd like to remind you tonight's broadcast and the series presented by Diecast Kings. Shop Diecast Kings for your home for the best selection of NHRA and NASCAR diecast cars at diecastkings.com. You can also find them on Facebook at facebook.com/DiecastKing. Diecast Kings, the official sponsor of the PRL Cup Series this season. Let's take a look at how they have did so far after the first round of the season before the holiday break. Up in the driver's standings, Dallas Pataska is up in the lead, but it's a tie at the moment, we should know. The reason? Richard Reagan Jr. came home with the victory after they went back and forth at Chicagoland. James O'Brien comes home in third coming into today, with Pat Harvey and Adam Eisenhower rounding out your top 5 in the point standings. Very early on, just 6 points separating the top drivers. Then you have the team standings, where it's close there as well between the top 2, where Skidmark Motorsports is on top of the board with 73 total points, 24/7 Motorsports with 70, Wedebeck Ramrod in third, Pilot Performance Group and Primetime Racing rounds out the team standings top 5. They're separated by 27 points. Lavoie Motorsport, Crash Motorsports, Rescue Racing, and Aim Free Autosports round out the 9 teams which made the start to open the season. Now, Christian, let's take a look at the series details once more as we get all set to go here in the final moments of practice.
Yeah, well, this is round 2, touched on round 1. We saw a great race at Chicagoland a couple of weeks ago now. Tonight we've got 40 laps here, fixed setup, 24 incident limit. Now, the 40 laps is pretty much going to force this race into being a one-stopper around the 20-lap mark. And 24 incidents might sound a lot, but it's very easy to pick one incident up every lap at the bus stop, so guys are going to have to keep an eye on that.
Yeah, it could get dicey, and especially, don't forget, no full-course yellows for today, meaning if you're in trouble, there won't be a caution to bunch back up the field. You will lose that time with trying to recover the race car, which means no mistakes, no pressure for them. And it's going to be difficult to try not to make some because, let's take a look at the track conditions. It's a blistering 127 degrees track temp, 82 degrees the air temp for today's race.
Yeah, very, very, very hot. And we've seen these cars, they tend not to really like it on a hot track at the best of times, even worse so on a road course where you don't really have the banking to help you. Although this track's a little bit more friendly than, say, somewhere like the Roval is, but we definitely see the really, really high tire temperatures here, and that makes it extremely difficult to, make it around the track without sliding.
One of the drivers that have found their way towards the top of the practice boards should be no surprise in our discussion. Dallas Pataska, someone with Dynamic Autosports that was dominant last round, I should say, at Chicagoland, and is now getting flipped over on the racetrack. That is unfortunate, but of course, his road experience very prestigious to say the very least with Radicals Online over the years.
Yeah, he's a guy who definitely enjoys these road courses, and for the past year or so, he's kind of made a bit more of a focus towards them, and I think we can definitely see that here. He's picked up the pace. At the minute, he's got nearly a full second advantage over the field, so I think he's really trying to make his mark on this race and this series.
Joshua Daniels, James O'Brien, Christian Morelli, and David A. Wilson Jr. rounds out the top 5 in practice in the final moments of the session. We do see a couple new drivers who will take the track today, including Brandon Majelecki in the 93 machine and the 112s here. So it should be interesting what happens in qualifying here. What is the best way, in your opinion, to preserve the tires while making sure they're not too hot while too cold for a qualifying session here at road course?
I think it's really difficult, especially with the kind of long lap you've got to get around. It's not the same as, say, a mile and a half or even a short track where you've not got too much time to kind of get the tire hot. I think the best bet really is to just kind of not necessarily creep around the lap, but just go around maybe about 100, no higher than 120, and just make sure you don't ever slide the car, never locking up the brakes, and then just kind of hammer down at the last corner and go for it.
Drivers all set to go for qualifying. 5 minutes to record the best time. Lone session, 2 laps to record these times. As everyone makes their way around the racetrack, not a lot of room for error here. So what, in your opinion, are the best passing zones for these drivers? Because there are a lot of cars, 30 total, who have made their way around the racetrack for some type of practice tonight.
Well, I think one of the great things about this track is that there are a lot of passing zones. Obviously, there's the downhill braking zone into turn 1, and that's very, very tricky. We see that the braking zone there is very long because of the downhill, and these cars just inherently don't stop very well. So there's an opportunity there. If that doesn't come off, with the S's being as difficult as they are with this car and this track temperature, there might be an opportunity in the bus stop. And if that doesn't work for you, you have that left-right section at the end of the track, which you can also make a pass there.
We talked about the danger of the S's, especially with slipperiness today in the Armco barriers. Where else will we expect potential cars or dangers to pop up on the racetrack today?
Well, I think the bus stop is very easy to overshoot, and then kind of once you've gone in too hard, it's really difficult to gather it up, and especially if you're in close proximity with cars, especially the first lap, that's going to be something we need to watch for. There could definitely be a big stack up and a big incident there. There's also the possibility of having an incident off the final corner. You can very easily end up washing out too wide and catching that tire stack.
Indeed, and right now these drivers making their way around the track for the end of their warm-up laps. Rachel Hunt taking the start of her first lap. She was in the 1:14.9s in practice, and not a greatest of runs in turn 1. A little bit on the higher side. It is a difficult turn to try and hit properly, Christian, it seems, because If you hit it too low, there's a chance you bounce up a little bit into somebody, but at the same time, there's the chance of getting loose there. If you take it too high, you have the chance to go off into the runoff area, as many of these drivers don't have too much of that in every other portion of the track to deal with.
Yeah, I think turn 1 is very difficult in kind of a deceptive way. It doesn't look like a challenging corner, it's just kind of a 90 right, but if you get too close to that inside curb, it really unsettles the car, and then we see a lot of guys use the runoff on the exit of the corner, but there's also quite a significant transition across that curb as well that can catch you out. So it's a lot harder than it looks.
First of the drivers to come across the stripe this time for the end of the first lap is Adam Zemke in NASCAR.com Superstore machine. A 1:13.701 to start qualifying. Pat Harvey just took his first lap. David A. Wilson Jr. just hit a 1:12.1. Josh Colley a 1:12.7. Josh Slade a 1:12.8. The times are coming in here, and we still have yet to see drivers like Pataska, like Regan, like many others record their first times up on the board quite yet.
Yeah, and I think this is kind of where we're sort of seeing the effect of the tire warm-up, and obviously in practice you can get as many goes at it as you like, and you can kind of really get it dialed in, whereas with this Q session, if you get the warm-up wrong, then it's gonna really have a big impact on your lap times. And at the moment, we're seeing guys in the 12s. I definitely expect that we'll see people in the 11s, and maybe we'll even see Pataska run another 10.
Richard Regan Jr. did not record a time last time by, had a potential X on the circuit. James O'Brien currently in the process of his first lap amongst some of the top competitors in practice. Joshua Daniels also the same. Silva now coming across the exit of turn number 8 and looks to record his first time in the 148 mile an hour range at the stripe. A 1:11.955 to start things off for him, but Pataska had a 1:11.417 just moments ago.
Yeah, not able to match his practice speed, but we'll see if he goes faster on this second lap.
Indeed, right now, and one driver hard into the barrier on the last corner. That is Pilot. He had a rough practice session amongst the bottom half of the field, unfortunately for him. But Shaw Jr. had a good practice session, meanwhile, in the middle of the pack. His 97 with a decent qualifying lap to start off his session in the 10th position to end off his times in a 1:13 range. But who else are you keeping an eye on this road course today to see who can compete up at the front?
Well, I think we have to keep an eye on Richard Regan. He was obviously extremely fast at Chicagoland, and he's going to be going for the championship, so you can't really have any holes in your game. So I'll be looking to see if he can challenge Pataska, and even if he can't challenge him, at least kind of finish inside the top 5 and get himself a good point score. In terms of other guys that we've seen in this series, I'm surprised that Rachel Hunt is struggling a little bit to find lap time out of the car.
It's going to be interesting to see what some of these drivers do. 22 of them recorded qualifying times officially, as Dallas Pataska will lead them to the green flag for race number 2 of season number 1 of the 2020 calendar year. He'll start alongside Corey Silva, who had that 1:11.955. Joshua Daniels starts in 3rd with David A. Wilson Jr. in 4th. Richard Regan Jr. starts in 5th. He'll start alongside Christian Morelli in row number 3. Josh Colley starts in 7th with Michael Lortai in 8th. Josh Slade and Adam Zemke round out your top 10.
And the first driver in the 113s, we got Thomas Morris starting 11th. Alongside him is Robert Bissau Jr. in 12th, about 4/10 back. Pat Harvey and John Francois Pilot will come up in 13th and 14th. Then we got Scotty Johnson in 15th. First driver in the 114s is Brendan Chatley in 16th. Danny Cervantes 17th. Jeff Costello 18th. Jose Tellez in 19th. And then the first driver in the 120s, Brandon Walter in 20th.
Rachel Hunt, a 1:15.272 in 21st position. Chad Brown will start in the final qualifying spot in terms of time, 1:17.237. Everyone else on provisionals. James O'Brien was in the midst of his second lap, didn't have enough time to record an official time. Stephen P. Durbin, Brendan Machaleski in 25th, Colton Lane 26th, James Duke, Mark Herzog, who makes his first start of the season, will start in front of Barron Hilton and William Hartman. Those are the 30 drivers all set to go here at Watkins Glen International as they get ready for what should be a thrilling one. It's a full pace lap, we should note, so we have a few more things to discuss here. First things first, your keys to victory tonight for you, Christian.
Well, it's definitely got to come down to tires, as I've mentioned before. It's all about tire wear, even more so when there is no full course yellow available. You're going to have to make 40 laps work with your strategy. As we've said, it's probably going to be a one-stop race, which means we're going to see guys pitting definitely around lap 20. I suspect we might see a couple of guys gamble and maybe stop a couple of laps earlier, say maybe lap 18 if they're stuck behind someone. Likewise, we could see guys who've got a big track position advantage pit a few laps later and really consolidate their lead. So definitely think with the high track temperatures, tires is going to be everything.
I agree with you on that one. Here's another thing to talk about. O'Brien, who showed speed in practice, he's elected to start from the pit lane. He was third on the practice sheet, but was set to start in the middle of the Hornet's nest. What's he going to have to deal with now, since he's going to have to deal with the time penalty before he can get back on the racetrack to start this event?
Well, obviously he had good pace in practice, but he's going to have that disadvantage if he's probably going to come out maybe about 10 seconds behind the tail end of the field. So I suspect we'll see him run that down quite quickly. Maybe he'll catch them up about, say, lap 6 or 7. And then I think he kind of has to make a bit of a dice roll to get himself some track position and be one of those guys who pits early and gets himself that undercut to jump a few more cars.
That gets to the pit strategy for today. 40 laps the distance for the field today, meaning they can't make it on fuel. Drivers in the Open 8 races this week in iRacing were saving fuel to make it on no stops. What's the fuel situation / strategy look like, in your opinion, for tonight's race?
Well, I definitely think it's not possible to save and make 40 laps work on a single tank. So I think everybody's penned into doing a one-stopper. But obviously, guys were able to make 35 laps on fuel, so there is quite a window, and it really depends on what your track position is and how you want to play that out.
The last key point I want to ask you about here, say you're one of the drivers in the midst of the top 10, let's say, or the top 15, with a lot of drivers around you. How do you handle this start compared to, say, the drivers up in the top 5?
I just think you have to be very, very careful. Down into turn 1, you can maybe gain yourself 1 or 2 positions, especially if you're on that inside line. But then coming up through the S's, I think you've got to not press the issue. You've got to consolidate what you've got. And then if you do want to try and make any more position gains, you might have an opportunity in the bus stop. But the goal for me would definitely be to not be too wide through the second part of the S's, because it will be very difficult for guys to make that work.
All the drivers set to go. 1 lane back from the start, that is Hilton, the second to last starter for the field. But Dallas Pataska is all set at the head of the field to bring us to the green flag here at Watkins Glen International. We're racing for road course sides.
Yeah, it looked like he waited a little bit before he went going, and then there's been a bit of a... Oh, we've got a car going around 22.
And that machine sent sideways. That is Christian McRowley, who is sent around sideways. The 6th place starter. A couple drivers sent off to the runoff area. We keep going, though. Some bad luck for the 22 machine with a huge hit from behind.
Yeah, it looked like there was a bit of a stack up on the start there, and the 22 unfortunately got caught up with it, and now he's going to have a fight back for the rest of the night.
Michael Mortai was the one who hit him, the 8th place starter in the 994 machine, who has a huge dent on his front nose, as Dallas Pataska looks to pull away. Corey Silva still in 2nd spot. Daniels, Wilson Jr., Regan Jr. round out the top 5 at the moment as they work their way towards the short chute, towards turns 7 and 8 on this road course. A good start outside of that, but these drivers making their way around the racetrack. Should note, O'Brien's already caught nearly Danny Cervantes at the back of the field.
Oh, we got another issue going into the left-hander. Somebody's trapped in the barrier on the right.
And it looks like that driver that got stuck on the side Armco barrier was Jeff Costello. And the 09 machine was starting in 17th. But at the end of the first lap, it's Dallas Pataska who leads the way, already up in front by 1.2 seconds, Christian.
Yeah, we saw Pataska had a pretty big pace advantage in the practice sessions, and obviously he had the pole by quite a margin as well. Looks like he's just trying to build himself a gap and kind of get himself away from the field.
Indeed, right now, off to this good start. You can see the difference already as they go in the bus stop here. And what is it that, in your opinion, Dallas Pataska may be doing compared to some of the other drivers? I know it's early on in this race to ask this question, but it just looks like he's got the confidence to be able to attack these corners and pull away quickly.
Yeah, I feel like that's really what it comes down to, and I'd wager that he's probably carrying a little bit more apex speed up through the S's, and that's translating to higher straight line speed before he gets to the bus stop, and I believe that's where he's making a lot of his gains. He also looks like he's able to keep the car much closer to the inside curbs than other guys out here, and he'll be picking up time through that as well.
The time he's got, a 1:11.793. That is almost a full 2 seconds plus faster than the rest of the field this past time by. Heck of a start for Dallas Pataska. But again, the drivers who did not have a good start, 6th place having some trouble. We also had 17th place off the start, having some incidents early on in this one. Let's take a look, if we can, at one of the Global SimRacing Channel replays after some of the incidents. We're going to see, first off, the battle for 6th position. This started in the first run to the 90, as it's called. And as we bunch these drivers up here, the driver that was involved in the 6th place, let's say Costello rather first, I should pardon me there, just clipped the grass.
Yeah, it looked like he just grabbed the brake, and he just had the right sides on the grass when he did it, and obviously it sent him into quite a moment and unrecoverable, and then he got stuck in that barrier on the right side.
Yeah, and one car actually hit him there too. That was the 25, it looked like. Maybe Danny Cervantes might have been the one who got... No. Should check that. That was Jose Tellez who scraped him in the color scheme. But that was bad luck, unfortunately, for him in this start of this race. Already on lap number 4, Pataska with a 1:11.917 last time by. The battle starting to shape up across the racetrack. As you look at Tellez's car, you can't see the damage really on the 24 machine. Look more towards maybe the door, if anything.
Yeah, and I'm surprised by that, because it looked like he took a pretty hefty whack there, as we see another car off on the exit of turn 1. We'll have to take a look at who that is. It appears to be the 213.
Yeah, that's Pilot, who is having trouble, and he is stopped along the wall trying to back up the race car. Not a good spot to get stopped along. Finally gets it spun back around. He was in 13th position, and significant damage on the left front, as you'll see on the GSRC replay. And Christian, let's break this down here, because this is the run he had out of turn number 1, which caused his trouble.
Yeah, we'll just have to wait for him to get down to the corner here, but I suspect what we'll see is that he got out on the curb and just lost control of the car on exit. So he gets into the corner okay, and then he's looking okay up on the curb, and there you see the back end goes around. He's pointing towards the inside wall and then straight back to the outside wall, and as we saw, he gets in that point where the barrier is so close to the track and there's really no space for him to turn around, and it's unfortunate to lose that much time through that kind of incident.
Yeah, all the way to the back. Meanwhile, P5 heating up. Colley trying to play defense. Josh Slade looking to play offense. As you look on board from the Cheez-It machine, who looks to have a good run this time to the bus stop.
Yeah, just not quite close enough this time, but definitely there, and obviously that's making that a bit of a 3-car fight now.
It's nearly a 5-car fight, because Lotai, who had that incident on lap 1, turn 1, and Adam Zemke are also slowly but surely creeping up as you look at the intervals. Trouble for Jose Tellez. The 24 machine is off into the sand trap in the bus stop. So just like that, the 24 machine, who was in 16th position last time by in the Diecast Kings machine, hits the tire barrier, locking it up all the way to the sand.
Yeah, looked like he's carrying way too much apex speed there, and obviously paid the price. Wasn't able to cut the car back to the left. Instead, the thing just decided it was going to keep going off to the right. Yeah, like he's losing it on the entry of the corner there and straight to the tire wall.
That's going to lose him a lot of time once more, already dropping to outside the top 20 to say the very least after that incident. But back to the battle for 5th position here. What do you do if you're Josh Slade? He started in 9th position, already +3 in the race. How do you attack this battle up here, already approaching the quarter point? That's going to help there. A bad run on the bus stop for Colley.
Well, I think right there he's doing exactly what he needs to do and just kind of force Cully into making a mistake, and now he might have a run down into the left, but looks like he's just a little too far back this time. But all he's got to do is just keep forcing these mistakes, and the opportunity will present itself, and he'll be able to sneak past.
Cully a little bit deeper on the brakes that time. Slade a little bit saving that time in terms of the tires, but sending it much harder into the final corner as he looks to try and get the run here. This should be an entertaining battle to say the very least, because Cully in the 115s at the moment, 114.4s for Slade.
Yeah, it definitely looks like Cully doesn't have the same pace as Slade, and all while this is happening, we've got David Wilson behind, just sitting behind, kind of watching it unfold. But as you mentioned earlier, we've got Michael Lordy. He's not too far behind either, so if this continues on, as it looks like it will, with Cully with a huge slide in the S's there.
That was a little bit dicey, to say the least, and forced the checkup. Here comes David A. Wilson Jr. driving the Pilot Performance Group machine, now making it a 3-car scrap for P number 5. But Cully having the best of the runs out of the bus stop compared to the other 2 machines, able to pull an air car lengths away from the 34 along with the 39.
Yeah, that was kind of strange, because obviously he had that big moment in the S's, but it just didn't look like Slade was able to take advantage of it, and then Cully obviously pulled away through the bus stop. So Cully can still get pace out of the car, but looks like he just keeps making mistakes.
Trouble in the S's. James Duke had crashed in 23rd position, but Jose Tellez, who was trying to recover, hit him dead on the right front tire as he tried to get back going in the middle of the racetrack. Let's take a look at how this incident started, but you'll see about 10 seconds later, the 24 of Tellez just come in and whack him.
Yeah, right there we see James Duke with that incident, and that's exactly what I was talking about with how dangerous the S's are. It's so tricky through there, and we see Tellez arrives on scene, making his own mistake, it seemed, because he was well offline, and then just nails the front of Duke's car.
Take a look on board and listen at this impact right here.
We see he was up on the curb and then straight into his right front.
That is very unfortunate for him. It's been bad luck. Meanwhile, battle for 5th is side by side. Slade able to get the run. Cully lets him go, taking the outside line through the inner loop on the exit of the inner loop. So Cully drops the 6th position. Let's take a peek at this one, and you'll see the run out of the bus stop. Cully had made a mistake before, made one more, taking it too deep on the second point.
Yeah, way too deep there, and ended up way wide for the carousel, and obviously we saw the Slade just drove straight underneath him and cleared him, and it's exactly what I was saying, that it's really just a matter of keeping Cully under pressure, and eventually those kind of mistakes are going to come out, and Slade's been able to clear him, and now he'll be on his way.
So Slade now 16 seconds back to the next position. Cully still going to be under pressure here. 1:15.1 last time by David Wilson Jr. 1:14.247. So the Pilot Performance Group's purple and white machine looks to try and get the run. Will Cully let him go is the question if he gets the run once more, because it looks like he's focused on getting the points today. He doesn't want to risk an incident, to say the very least, trying to defend a position for too long.
Yeah, and Cully's in big trouble here, really. We're only 9 laps into this race, and we talked about getting to about lap 20 before we pit for tires, and he's having much more drop-off than the guys around him. We see him sliding the car around a lot, and I think it's going to only get worse for him from here.
Yep. Indeed. Let's look at the battle right behind him, meanwhile, because Lorty is trying to hold off Zemke at the moment. Remember, though, that 994 is dealing with a lot of front-end damage after hitting the back end of Christian McRelly at the start of the race. How much is that going to be affecting him here? Because it looks like it's severely around that grill area specifically.
Yeah, it definitely looks like he's crushed the front end pretty good there, and I think that's going to be really hurting him for straight line speed, especially up the hill. Whether it's causing him any problems in terms of temperatures, I don't think it will, because the tape setting's quite conservative on this fixed setup, so I think he'd be okay on that, but definitely going to be down on straight line speed.
Oh, trouble for Morris. Morris off along the guardrail, trying to stop the car on the edge of the S's. Let's take a look at the replay here to see what happened. Robert Bichon Jr. is also slow on the racetrack, who was in top 10 positions. So let's take a look at the 69 machine to see what happened here. Bashad Jr.'s the car in front. Oh! Yeah, that's going to do it, Christian.
Yeah, and we saw Morris immediately pulled off and decided to tow his car back, so a huge amount of damage there. And again, kind of the same kind of deal where a guy touched the grass, and a pretty weird incident though, got to be said. I don't normally see people grab the grass on the exit of that corner, but shows you how dangerous the grass is in these cars.
We already have 4 drivers trying to get repairs in the pit lane already. Costello, Morris, Telez, and Duke are all stopped along the walls in the pit lane, while Bashad Jr. trying to make it around P3. Let's take a look there because Joshua Daniels still under attack from Richard Regan Jr. They're 12 seconds back at first, but they've been showing decent clip compared to the rest of the field in the 113s to 115s when they've been scrapping here.
Yeah, it looks like Corey Silva's just pulled away a little bit for that second spot, but these guys are having a great fight for this third place here.
Yeah, we'll have to see how Regan Jr. attacks this, driving the Multiple Sclerosis Society sponsorship today for Christina Torode, as he looks to try still follow along in the back draft of Joshua Daniels. And Daniels in that sim pit machine has been having a good run as well, was one of the top drivers in practice, second on the board. While Richard Regan Jr. looking to try and get as many points as possible here on the road course.
Yeah, and I think this is the thing here for Regan Jr. that he must know at this point that he's got no chance of beating Protaska in this race unless something happens to him. So his goal's got to be to pick himself up a top 5 if he can. But we're talking about these guys. How about another guy who we were talking about not so long ago, Josh Slade? He's moving. He's running quicker than these guys. His last lap a little bit slower, but before that he was actually a good bit quicker, especially if these guys continue to fight, so he could play himself into this battle too.
About 6 seconds back at the moment, and what's the mindset for Josh at this point if you were the man in that cockpit right now?
Well, I think he's definitely in a little bit of a no man's land scenario here. He's got to hope that these guys keep fighting and gives him an opportunity, but at the same time he can consolidate that gap that he's now got to Cully, and I think it's now a case of just managing it until the pit stop and then making a strategy decision at that point as to what he feels is going to give him the best chance to get a third position out of this.
Indeed, right now we'll see what the time is this time. Bye! Not going to be good. He's off into the sand trap. Overran turn number 7. Well, that's not a good way to gain positions. And one car is sideways behind them. Lap traffic of Barrett Hilton stopped along the entrance of the turn number 8. Trying to get back going, and does, as let's take a look at this one. Barrett Hilton, 24th position when he ran around here.
Yeah, it looked like he was pretty wide for the corner, and then I think again, another driver to clip the grass on exit, and it just really violently turns the car.
Yeah, it took him a little bit to get going in the rescue racing machine, but all clear for the drivers as we have a pit stop. Danny Cervantes in the pits, while the driver we just looked at Hilton is off again to the runoff. But an interesting call for the 25 of Cervantes, having severe left side damage, has just hit the race car.
Yeah, and he's been struggling a little bit this race. Was running 17th before he came into the pits there. Obviously got some damage. Pretty early pit stop though.
That's because just before the entrance to turn 8, he actually smacked that left front hard on a softer black portion of the wall against the Armco. So it looks like he may have decided, let's take it in now, get the damage repaired, as Costello also follows in suit as well. Looking back to Cully, meanwhile, he is now back to 5th position because of that mistake from Josh Slade, and still holding on station in front of Wilson Jr.
Yeah, and I think as we're getting later into this run, we're starting to see more and more guys struggle with the tires, and we're obviously seeing more and more incidents as well.
P3 is also heating up as we've been looking at that, because Richard Regan Jr. went up to the back tailpipe of Joshua Daniels and got the run nearly out of the S's. Didn't elect to make the move quite yet, but he's got the pace together, was 0.2 quicker last time by.
Yeah, definitely looks like Regan's done a better job of keeping the tires on his car, and as you said, he was right with him as they came through the S's, but Looked like he elected to just back off it a little bit again, probably thinking about the points, but at the same time, he's looking racy and it definitely looks like he wants this spot.
Has the better run out of turn number 7, heading towards the final run, makes contact with Daniels. Daniels holds on to it, has a significant dent on the back end now, while Reagan Jr. has some scrapes on the front nose.
Yeah, that looked like he just got caught out by how early Daniels braked for that last corner, and then going into turn 1, Daniels has gone wide. This might be an opportunity for Regan here.
Daniels holding onto the position, getting up through the gears to 3rd. He still tries to hold on to 3rd position on the racetrack as they work their way back to the S's. Once more they go. A bit of a faster run for Daniels though through this section.
Yeah, it didn't look like Regan was able to capitalize on Daniels' kind of poor exit out of 1, but as we've seen, Daniels is just not able to carry the same speed as Regan through the second half of the track, and again, Daniels wide through the bus stop.
Daniels looking to play defense still. They're slowly but surely losing ground to Silva up in front. Regan Jr. not a good run out of the outer loop. Had to lift off the gas, losing about a couple car lengths as they go back into turn number 7.
Yeah, now he's coming up to 8, where obviously you gave him that shot the last lap a little bit further back this time, but again, it just looks like to me that Regan's better in the slower speed corners, but Daniels is actually a little bit better in the higher speed corners.
And why do you think that is? Is that driver preference or is that something else in your opinion?
I feel like that's related to kind of how aggressive Daniels is driving the car, and it also looks like Regan's struggling a lot with rear grip, and obviously in those high-speed corners, if you've got the rear sliding around, you're probably not going to want to push it too hard. And again, we see him through the S's there, having the car quite yawed out, but definitely closer to Daniels this time.
One of the main things they were instructed about in the drivers' meeting for tonight, be careful because of temperature seen in the 130s. We're at 132 right now. Regan Jr. nearly jumped his way through the bus stop. Loses a bit of ground on the exit, trying to keep it inside the pavement marking.
Yeah, he really kind of chased him into the corner there, and again, as we see on the screen, 132 track temperature. That's extremely hot.
That's a +5 from the drop of the green flag. We did have a cloud before the green flag, so there is not a lot of grip to be had, to say the very least, on this circuit. P5, let's go back that direction because Cully, he's now got to deal with 3 cars once more. Wilson Jr. now under attack by Josh Slade. Also, they're dealing with lap traffic in this grouping. They just passed Chad Brown, and now they look to get into the open space before they pass some of the drivers trying to make their way out of the pit lane who have been having repairs done.
Yeah, and this is a bit of a nightmare scenario, I think, for Josh Slade. Obviously, we saw him get past Josh Cully, but then made that mistake, and now he's back behind him again, and Cully still looks like he's struggling with these tires. He's the slowest of this group of 3, and it's actually playing the guys behind, like Michael Lordy, back into the fight.
At this point, do you try and split the race up the middle and get fresh tires then, or do you try and hold on for as long as you can if you're struggling as much as you are?
I think if you're somebody like Josh Cully, you just kind of have to stick to the middle. But maybe if you're somebody like Josh Slade and you can see that you're better than Cully is on the tires on the long run, you might want a chance pitting a little earlier just to get clear of him and build a gap.
Absolutely agree with you on that one. Should note the leader at this point is still Dallas Pataska. He is up in front by a massive 17 plus seconds on the track. Gained 3 seconds this lap alone because of some mistakes by Silva in the 116s. So these drivers fighting for as many points as they can, to say the very least, before the pit stop window opens up. Let's look at P9. That is Michael Lordy right now trying to hold on in front of Zemke still with that damage. They've also been reeled in, though, by Pat Harvey in the Elroy's barbecue machine.
And we haven't spoke much about Pat Harvey, but he's having a pretty solid afternoon here, running in 11th, up 2 spots from where he started, and actually just behind him, a driver that we've seen involved in numerous incidents, Christian McCrelly. He's actually running in 12th now.
Yeah, so a bit of a recovery drive from him. Remember, he went to as far back as the end of the top 20. Meanwhile, O'Brien just hit in the junkyard special machine. But the Road Trip Transport sponsored car overran his pit box by 2 stalls. So he'll lose some time in the pit lane.
Yeah, that's a huge mistake. I mean, it's normal to see drivers slide the box a little bit, maybe half a stall to a full stall, but 2 stalls is like he didn't see where his box was when he came in, and by the time he did, just completely missed it.
He had gotten himself to about 12th position on the racetrack before he elected the pit. Now he's going to have to gain somewhat back again. P10 is also seeing Zemke still having to shape things up. Pat Harvey has gotten by him as we were showing that situation with O'Brien because Zemke let him go coming out of turn number 7. Pardon me, out of the outer loop, I should rather say.
Yeah, we see Zemke running the top side there and just allowing Pat Harvey to go through, and I think that's smart by Zemke. Obviously, everybody's struggling with tires at this point. You don't want to have a fight and end up making a mistake and sliding off.
Playing the safe move, sacrificing the top 10 for the time being. They will now work their way towards Michael Lortai at the moment, who's pulled away by a couple seconds. The P5, again, if we can go back that direction, there's one thing to note. It's becoming a 4-car scrap. Brandon Madrelewski, plus 17, started 25th in out-recorded qualifying time, has been reeling them down by a few tenths a lap. Ran a 1:14.3 last time by. That was 8 tenths quicker than Josh Slade on the circuit. So he is coming in quick to join the back end of this group.
Yeah, and he's been consistently the second fastest car out there as well, so no surprise to see him playing himself into this fight. But what a gain, though, from 25th to 8th. That's an amazing drive.
And we have drivers pitting this time. Silva is in. We also see Wilson Jr. duck down to the pit lane. Slade stays out for one more lap along with Cully. So the pit window is open for these drivers, splitting it halfway in the race. Silva had to back up to get back in his pit box. That will lose him some time, at least 3 seconds.
Yeah, he had a pretty big advantage, though, and he was obviously quite far away from Pataska, so I don't think it'll lose him a position. Might put him back closer to the battle that was there for 3rd, though.
Also seen Scotty Johnson ducked into the pit lane. You see Michael Lortai coming into the pit lane. He's got some damage. James Duke coming out at the same time as these drivers. And it could be a bit dicey on the pit exit depending on how you come out here, because you have the risk of coming out side by side off the exit at turn number 1.
Yeah, and obviously the guy on track doesn't really see that you're there, and especially with this V7 tire, it's very slippery to start out with as well, so you can't just hammer the gas down and try and clear him before you get to the S's. You got to be careful yourself, and it's really a difficult pit exit.
You see Johnson able to come out, and coming out side by side with a couple drivers, in fact. He'll get in front of Costello at the moment, and James O'Brien, who opened up this pit window. So it's going to be interesting where O'Brien cycles out. He also had a bad run to the pit box. Should note Josh Colley is in the stalls right now in the 3 machine. We also had Pat Harvey duck down this time by. So everyone ducking down for their 4 tires and fuel for the race to make it to the finish.
Yeah, the only drivers we're seeing staying out there at this point seems to be Pataska and Regan Jr., and I don't think that's too surprising. Those guys were 2 of the best on the tires, so I think they're trying to run a little bit longer so they got a little bit fresher at the end.
And you might have noticed Richard Regan Jr. up in 2nd spot instead of 3rd. Remember, he was battling with Joshua Daniels. As we were looking at the pit stops, Regan Jr. was let go before the pit window opened. Pataska now in the Dynamic Auto Sports machine. As he looks to get his service, it's been domination for him. 24 seconds the advantage before his pit stop here.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, he could have pitted whenever he wanted. He could have pitted really late in the race, really early in the race. I don't think it would have made much difference. He's had such a pace advantage this afternoon.
Yeah, it's been that type of a race today. Richard Regan Jr. stayed out this time by. And right now, Pataska in line for the most points, most led laps, I should rather say. But Regan Jr. might be playing the points game, knowing he's not been in the same ballpark. But if he stays out and holds on to the lead at the stripe this time, maybe, he'll be able to get the bonus points to keep up in the standings and separate themselves by just a couple points to the next oval compared to the 23.
That seems quite a dangerous play, though, because the longer he stays out there, the more he's going to fall back into the rest of the pack, and he didn't have the same advantage that Pataska did, so he's definitely going to lose positions the longer he stays out on track.
He did pick up a couple seconds on Daniels before he ducked down to the pit lane. Daniels did, rather. But Pataska right now just 8 seconds behind the 46 of Regan Jr. So we'll have to see who ducks down this time. We see Mart Herzog, who has ducked down just in front of the leader. He is now in. Regan Jr. did duck down this time. By will not get the lead lap. He will go into the stalls this time. Regan Jr. amongst the newest tires once everything's all said and done.
Yeah, and actually looking at Regan Jr.'s last laps, I thought he might really fall off compared to the guys who pitted earlier, but it just doesn't seem to have been the case. The only guy who really put in a significantly faster lap time than him was Corey Silva, who was ahead of him anyway.
How much difference in fall off do you think we'll see in compared to when these drivers come out of the stall to where we were seeing them running at the end of this run?
Well, I think the big thing is that now on the second run, there's a lot more rubber down on the track, and we've seen that reduces the wear quite a lot, especially with this tire. So I think we'll find drivers dropping off a little bit less on this second run, but overall it still comes down to how you drive it, and especially that track temperature, which is still up there. So if they're really aggressive with the tire early on, it's going to come back to hurt them late on.
Richard Regan Jr. actually picked up 8 seconds after the pit stop window, Christian, as you follow along with him on the racetrack, right into a battle with Corey Silva. So he stayed out long, and it actually worked out really well for him because now he's going to be on a couple lap fresher tires than 94.
Yeah, and just looking at that, the big gain for him was actually his time in the lane, 42.9 for Corey Silva versus a 38.0 for Regan. So that's where he made up a lot of that time.
And we'll have to see how this shapes out here. Should note as well, the battle is on now for P number 8 because Slade exited with Majaleski and Wilson Jr. for that scrap as well. So things getting a little bit dicey in that spot as well. So the pit stop strategies all playing out to be very interesting. And one of the main key things, how you exit the pit lane, so crucial it seems here, Christian, it seemed today.
Yeah, and the entry as well. We obviously saw a lot of guys sliding the box, and I think that really hurt Corey Silva actually a bit more than I thought it would, because I thought even with that mistake he was still going to be quite significantly clear of Regan, but it turns out that he isn't. So obviously guys making mistakes on their pit in or pit out is really hurting them.
Looking back now at the battle for second position, as you see them right behind Zemke. It appears right now in that scrap. Yes, indeed. Zemke is in third position, but at the moment he is not hit. Him and Macrelli have yet to pit on the racetrack, so they are stretching as long as they can. So it's going to become the question how they handle this traffic now. Silva entering a little bit deeper with the fresher tires and getting more grip on exit. Zemke will pit, elect to stay out of the way of the battle, but still a better run for Regan Jr. off the corner as he pit. Regan Jr. side by side heading into the 90. Looking to try and dive on the bottom side, and does. Takes the position, moves himself up to third. Second still up the road.
Yeah, and I'm surprised that Silva didn't fight that a lot harder, because really that's the only position that he's fighting for in this race. But obviously we saw there Regan just had the run, made the move, and now is taking over that position. It looks like he's still got Macrelli in front of him, but he's been out there for 25 laps now on these tires, and looks like he's lining up a move on him in the bus stop.
Regan Jr. forced to check up a little bit. They'll also be reaching Rachel Hunt in a moment. Dancing around off the exit is the 46, the Monteros Society machine. Looking to use those fresh tires. Macrelli not giving up quite yet. Now moves towards the left side of the track and lets the fresher tire drivers go, as Regan Jr. will have to take it up on the outside. No, he's fighting this.
Yeah, and I don't really know why, if I'm honest. This is not a fight that Macrelli's in, but obviously he's out here to race, and as we see him not coming down pit road, I thought he picked the inside there. I thought he might pit this time, but no, he's staying out.
That loses him 2 positions, and now these drivers will reach lap traffic in the battle for second. Rachel Hunt elects to go out to the runoff area to let these drivers go. So Richard Regan Jr. will going to have to see what the pace is now for him as he looks to run away, already picking up a couple car lengths here, Christian. Let's take a look back now at P7. Remember, that was Slade, Majaleski, and a few other drivers looking to scrap. They've reeled in slowly but surely Josh Colley now, though, to make it a 3-car battle for P6 instead of a 2-car battle for P7. And again, Christian, it comes down to the conversation of Colley trying to play defense for much of this race.
Yeah, and I feel like Slade's gonna think that he's been here before, and it's because he has. He's back behind Colley again, and once more it looks like Colley's not having as good a tire management as Slade is, but we saw how difficult it was for Slade to pass Colley the first time around, and now obviously coming down to the end of the race, I don't think Colley's going to make it any easier now.
Should note, a couple drivers may have tried 2 tires. Zemke for sure took a 10-second pit stop, for example, Christian. Say if you're one of the drivers on 2 tires, how is that going to handle for the final half of this race?
Well, I have to be honest and say I don't know. I've never taken 2 tires on a road course. I find that's a really wild card play, and I'm assuming he's going to have taken lefts because we normally see left sides wear the most here, but still, that's an interesting play. Obviously, he's running in 12th at the moment, but we'll have to look and see if he's able to get lap time out of that car.
There's also the chance for the P6 driver and P7 rather than Slade to be potentially on the strategy, but he's now getting held up a little bit, trying to get the run. Majaleski now looks to get a run, has to check up, forced back up to the top preferred racing line as Colley gets the run to the bus stop. Now
Slade on defense, but I don't know how long he can hold on to this for. He's fighting against Majewski, who's come up from 25th and has consistently been the second fastest car on track. I feel like this is inevitable.
Absolutely right now, and remember, they came out together in the pit stop window as they look to fight right now in the 113s in terms of pace, the 112s, 113s. The majority of these leaders, these drivers still have to deal with Rachel Hunt potentially to get around the traffic. Majaleski not able to get the run quite yet. When do you time this up if you're the 93?
Well, I think realistically he's not going to catch any more guys once he clears this pair, but it looks like he's really strong off of 1 and especially through the S's, so if he can get a run into the bus stop, I think Slade's really got no choice but to give it up to him. He can't pass Colley. And we see there, Majewski's got a really good run this time, but which side's Slade going to pick?
Slade looking to play defensively this time. Majewski cuts it late to the bottom on the right side, has to break early. So it looks like he showed the nose. He sees an opportunity, especially with Colley having a bad run through the S's 2 straight laps in a row to make the move. Will Slade let him go? He slides up, trying to diamond off of the outer loop, slides the tires, and continuing to scrap as they get around the lap traffic.
Yeah, and I still feel like this is inevitable. Majewski's been so fast, and yet Slade's still fighting this position so hard. I feel like Slade could let him go, and that would give him an opportunity to follow him through when he passes Colley.
Yeah, perfect opportunity as Slade slides. Able to save it, keep it off the outside wall, make it inside wall, but drops him back to 8th position. A huge slide off the course. Take a look at this on board.
He's very, very lucky to get away with this. It looked like it was going hard right down into the pit wall. You see he's coming through final turn, starts to get away from him a bit, keeps his foot in it, but pointing at the pit barrels, manages to get it away from him, but loses the spot.
A heck of a save off the final corner. Majewski let go by Colley this time. That moves him up to 6th position. Now the focus is on trying to reel down Joshua Daniels, who, as this has all been shaping up, is in the 5th position still. Especially since McRowley has yet to pit one of 2 drivers not to pit so far.
Yeah, and it looks like Majewski might have a bit of a challenge on his hands here to run down Daniels, because coming up to about 11 laps to go, and he's about six seconds behind.
Do you think there's enough time, though? They're coming to 11 laps to go.
I think he can do it, but I think it's going to be very close, and I think he's going to catch him earliest with 2 laps to go.
Have to wait and see. Again, Daniels in the 1:15 for time comparison. Maciejewski in the 1:14.4. So that was 6/10 gain last time by, for example, but 5 seconds to reel in. As this is going on, Dallas Pataska looking to lap his way up to 12th position, and he's been running a full second or so quicker every single lap from green flag to pit stop to now.
Yeah, and he's got everybody up to up to 14th laps. Looking at the lap times and the gaps he's got on the board, it looks like he might lap everybody up to 10th position.
Yeah, that is a phenomenal pace again in this one, but I think it shows again the talent that Pataska has for these road courses. There's a reason he's one of the main rotation staples on the road side of things for endurance racing.
Yeah, and as I said earlier, he's put a lot of work into being better in terms of road course racing, and obviously he's been doing a lot of GT racing, some prototype racing, and I think it's really kind of all coming together for him at this point.
Looks like trouble for Chatley. He was in 18th position, and this was in the past lap or so. He has no front end, originally had front end at the start of the lap, but the reason Chatley is in the pits, he hit the left side Armco barrier through the S's, and it sent him hard into the right side of the barriers, shredding off the front bumper. He is now into the pit lane getting repairs. Unfortunate for the rescue racing machine. Back at P number 6, this is Slade, who just got by Cully. So Cully playing it very safe today, knowing he's been having an up and down race. But they had some contact just in front of them because James Duke hit the right rear tire of Josh Slade. This was in turn 1.
Yeah, I saw that as we were kind of focusing on Chatley in the pits there, and it looked like he was kind of checking his car out through the S's. He was kind of doing a bit of a wiggle with it, so I don't know if he's picked up a good chunk of damage there, but it did look like it was pretty hard contact. It looked like Slade had been let by, and then was hit pretty hard in his right rear on sort of the apex of turn 1.
You can see right here, directly on the tire, and that's going to slow him up a little bit. He went off and stopped a little bit in the runoff area and closed the gap a bit compared to Cully. He's already pulled it back and does have some right front damage as well in that race car here. And it becomes the question, did that damage the toe because of how hard he hit that right rear?
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty hefty contact, and we can see the right side's all tore up on the car. Now, I don't think it's going to hurt him too much because obviously he just cleared Cully and had been pulling away, so hopefully it doesn't lose him a spot because of that. And I don't think he's in a position where he's going to catch anybody in front of him either.
Yeah, again, 6th position, 5 seconds behind the next driver in Brandon Maciejewski. But it's become calm. Surprisingly calm on this racetrack at the moment. Why do you feel that is at this point? But P10 is currently the closest battle at the moment on the racetrack.
And we've got a lot of these guys look like they're kind of working their way through lap traffic at this moment. You see Zemke, looks like he's got really good pace at the moment. Obviously one of the later guys to pit. And with that 2-tire call, we believe. So actually working out okay for him right now.
Dan had a 10.8 second pit stop, gaining 4 seconds on the racetrack. Ortai has been dealing with that damage on the front bumper since the drop of the green flag, essentially. Nearly set it off to the barriers that time. And they're going to have to let Dallas Pataska go. That's why they're cutting to the right side. So Pataska lapping himself up to P number 10 already.
And I thought he might get there. I didn't think he'd get there that quickly, though.
I don't know if the drivers realized he was coming that quickly either, because Pataska just blistered his way up to them. He was about, what, 10 seconds back last time we checked the Pataska compared to these two, give or take?
Yeah, I mean, it was looking like he was only just kind of going to lap everybody up to 10th, but obviously cleared Michael Lodi there and is now well on his way. Might even get a few more of these guys.
We'll have to see if Zemke can make the move here, and he's taking a line that is interesting but slippery. He's trying to diamond off the corner out the outer loop. Your thoughts on doing that compared to, say, riding against the rumble strips on that part of the racetrack?
Well, my preference is always to kind of run the car sort of around the very lowest arc possible of the turn, and I think he's going to be hurting his rear tires a bit doing what he's doing, but at the same time, I have no idea how his car handles with that 2-tire call, so maybe that's the only thing that's working for him, and that's the only way he can get his car to turn.
Should note that Rachel Hunt just came out of the pit lane, was the last driver not to pit on the circuit. She went as long as she could on the fuel to 35 laps, coming to lap 36 now. In 19th position last time, pit stop drops her to that position, rather, right into the mix of some of the drivers who were on the lead lap still of Pat Harvey. She started 21st. It's been an up and down day for her.
Yeah, Rachel Hunt's a driver that we've obviously seen win races in past seasons of the PRL League, especially when it comes to oval races, so it doesn't look like she's taken to the road courses quite as well, but at the same time, I think she would have expected a better result than this today.
That becomes the conversation, though, of how well do the skills on the oval side potentially translate to, say, the road side. Some drivers, it might be natural, some drivers not. How difficult do you think it is to try and carry that over to the road side and then develop those skills as time goes on to be able to battle at, say, this position right here?
Well, I feel like it's one of those things where you definitely have to work on it. It's not something that's just going to kind of appear based on talent, so to speak. It's not a discipline that transfers completely across, but at the same time, it's not entirely different. And especially when it comes to this car, where it's all about tire management on these road course races, it's still always about tire management on the ovals. So a lot of the driving style transfers across, and I think sometimes we see drivers maybe misunderstand what it takes to be fast on a road course, and instead of using the same style they use on an oval, they'll actually become overly aggressive, and it'll actually hurt them more than it helps them.
How long did it take for you to develop your road side, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, I kind of cheated with that because I went the opposite way around. I went from road to oval and then kind of sort of hovered a bit back towards road. So it was difficult doing it the opposite way, though, because you don't have an appreciation of the same tire management skills in road racing. I don't feel as you do with the oval racing.
Very interesting stuff here. Should note 16th is up for grabs at the moment. That's right behind Richard Regan Jr. and that is for position. The last driver's one lap down. Colton Lane looking to try and get a run in the 60 machine. We haven't talked much about Colton. He started 26th and is up to 17th compared to Walter, who started 20th, is up to that 60th position.
Yeah, and these guys in this kind of area of the field have all had really solid days. Obviously, we see Colton Lane up to 17th from 26th. Another driver up a lot of positions, Mark Herzog, up in 15th from 28th.
And Herzog had some ups and downs about a few laps ago, nearly going off to into the sand trap in the bus stop. But right now, still far along with Lane at this point. Right now, Lane looking to get the best points possible at this point. What do you think's going through his mind here? Because we're under 4 laps to go this time by for him.
Well, I think he's got a good opportunity on Walter here. And I think he can make it happen. He's got enough laps. He just needs to focus on running a good line and taking advantage of mistakes. And we see coming through the S's here, it looks like he's got a little bit of a better run, but at the same time, he's got Corey Silva coming up behind to lap him. So maybe he can let Corey pass and he can follow him through and sneak that position.
See if he can sneak the position. That again is Corey Silva. Lane looking to stay on the right side of the track. Walter looking to the middle for the time being. Silva looks to get the corner exit. Not as good of a run compared to the R2 drivers as Lane. Not gaining ground, losing ground, in fact, to Walter, while the third place driver yet to make a move quite yet. Might be letting these drivers fight. He is 4 seconds, making 3 seconds back to the next position still.
Yeah, and we saw Regan past Silva and then pulled away, so I think Silva knows that there's nothing really for him to gain here. He's not going to get caught. He's got a 12-second lead over 4th place, Joshua Daniels, so maybe he'll just sit behind, let this battle play out.
That looks like the mindset here. These drivers have about 3 laps to get around the racetrack. Dallas Pataska going to be taking the 2-to-go signal this time by, for comparison's sake, and is about to lap himself up to the 8th position. He still fought a lot of this battle for 16th position. A bit of a bobble from Walter. Here comes Lane, looking to make the move. A bit dicey that time. Lane nearly making some more contact and clipping the grass in front of the 3rd place car.
Yeah, it looked like he had a huge slide, got it gathered up, and then was all out of sorts as he got to the entry of the bus stop, and gave him a little bit of a shot there, and nearly had contact with Silver as well.
And Silva losing some time because of that. But that's right now. Let's take a look on board and see what he's seen, because what we've seen was a near disaster for what could have been a podium run.
It's definitely not what he would have wanted to see on the entry to the bus stop. Looked like he was very close to getting pinched between Lane and the inside wall there.
Yeah, lost himself some time, but still holding on to the position. But he is still in 3rd, 1:17.270 last time by. Still behind Dallas Pataska. Dallas Pataska getting ready to take the white flag this time by. It's been pure domination for Dallas Pataska, looking to take home his first victory of the season after being one of the dominant drivers at Chicagoland. Off to a good start this season. 1 to go this time by.
Yeah, he's got a 41-second lead as he comes across the stripe. That's crazy. He's been pulling the field over a second a lap this race.
Richard Reagan Jr. has been also having a strong race in the start of the season. Going to be about just a 1 to 2 point differential between them in the standings after everything's all said and done unofficially. So both of those drivers showing they might be the drivers to watch this season, to say the very least, at the end of the campaign, by the end of the campaign.
Yeah, and I think Regan's done a great job here today. As we mentioned earlier in the race, it's all about not losing points, and I think he's done the best that he possibly could have done. He was not going to beat Pataska, but he's going to come home in 2nd.
And Corey Silva looking to come home in 3rd, just got by some of the traffic. Zemke still fighting, along with O'Brien, who is on a different lap cycle. But out of the final corners, Dallas Pataska. He led from green flag to checkered flag. He'll take home race number 2 of the season for the PRL Cup Series. He's a winner at Watkins Glen. The winning differential, 42 seconds. As Zemke and O'Brien still fight for position that is for a spot for 11th position on the racetrack. They will come across the stripe 11th and 12th. But Richard Reagan Jr., again a stellar run from him, 7 seconds in front of the next position. The 46 machine will come home with a good points day and a top 5 finish for him. And you have to give a shout out to the driver in 5th position. Couldn't reel in Daniels, but Brandon Magaleski was able to go 20 positions behind the likes of Silva and Daniels to the checker flag in today's race. As you look at that 93 machine, a stellar drive from start to finish. One of the drivers who didn't record a qualifying time, able to get a top 5 in the end.
Yeah, I think a fantastic job by him to make that much progress, especially given where he started.
Last of the drivers making their way around the racetrack. Wilson Jr. in front of Pat Harvey. That is 8th and 9th. Coley coming home in 7th as they work their way into the pit lane. But we'll take a break. When we come back, post-race coverage will get underway. You're watching the Global SimRacing Channel for the PRL Cup Series from Watkins Glen International. coverage of the PRL Cup Series. Live from the virtual Watkins Glen on the Global SimRacing Channel after what was a thriller for the second race of the season. The man who came out on top today by a dominating 43.271 seconds was Dallas Pataska, his first win on the trot and his second time inside the top 5. Richard Regan Jr. came home in second spot with Corey Silva rounding out the top 3. We'll be speaking to those drivers in just a few moments. Joshua Daniels came home in 4th, but Brandon Majeloski with the drive of the race going from 25th to a top 5 finish, 1 minute and 2 seconds behind the race winner. Josh Slade came home in 3rd, with Josh Coley the last car in the lead lap in 7th. David A. Wilson Jr. came home in 8th, with Pat Harvey and Michael Lordy in the top 10.
And in 11th, we had Adam Zemke and James O'Brien in 12th. Another driver making great progress, 23rd to 12th, so great job by him. And we had Scotty Johnson and Mark Herzog, another driver, 28th to 14th, so some really big movers today in the field. And then we had Brandon Walter in 15th, Colton Lane 16th, Christian Miccarelli in 17th. Really unfortunate day for him. Obviously, we saw that incident down into turn 1 that mired him back in the pack, but a good fight back to 17th. And we had Stephen Durbin in 18th, Rachel Hunt 19th, and Chad Brown in 20th.
21st, Juan Francois Pilot. 22nd, Brendan Chatley, 11 laps down. 23rd, Jeff Costello in the Iron Maiden machine, started in 18th, had some bad luck at the start of the event. James Duke, 24th. Danny Cervantes having some trouble in 25th. Baron Hilton, 26th, with Thomas Morris in the 27th spot. Robert Bichot Jr. hit the inside barrier hard off of turn number 1 and got contact, finished in 28th. Jose Tellez got involved in a couple incidents. Some bad luck for him today, finished in 29th. William Hartman did not make it to the green flag. That's a look at your unofficial race results for race number 2 of the PRL Cup Series season. But the man who came home on top today is Dallas Pataska. Dallas, how does it feel to be a winner in the PRL Cup Series in such dominating fashion?
That feels pretty good. Going into the season, this was the race that I had circled, so it feels good to follow through and get what I came for.
How difficult was the preparation for this race? Because I was talking a bit with Christian about this, and we said this a little bit on air. You had been working so hard to prepare for this race today.
Yeah, it's been tricky. I'm sure a lot of other people have brought it up, whether it be the forums or even the race chat for this broadcast. A lot of times the setup or the fixed setup is tricky to drive, so going through the S's was the hardest part. Basically, you just need some really big balls to really get any speed out of it, so it's tricky because otherwise it'll just go right into the wall. So yeah, a lot of laps, I'm not sure how many, well over 100, and a lot of frustration before I actually started clicking and getting some speed out of it.
Overall, how many laps do you think you turned, give or take, this week at Watkins Glen?
Probably around 200.
Decent amount of laps for sure to get around for preparation for today's race, that's for sure. But next race that you'll see in the Global SimRacing Channel will be at Bristol on the 19th. Your thoughts on going to Bristol with this car in this package?
I'm not sure. I haven't driven Bristol with the new tire model we have, so it's going to be interesting. I have kind of a mixed history at Bristol. I've had success and I've had a lot of failure, so we'll see. It'll be a points night for sure, but if I'm in the right position, I'll go for a win again.
Indeed. You and Richard Regan Jr., top 2, both races to start the season. Who do you have to thank before you let you get back to your team?
I'd just like to thank everyone back at Dynamic that gave me some pointers for the tire model and everything. I'd like to thank you guys for putting on a broadcast. You guys do an amazing job every week. And most importantly, I'd like to thank Jerome and all the organizers over at PRL for putting on this league. They do a fantastic job every season. But that's it. Everyone who's watching, of course, thank you guys. But that's all.
Congratulations on the victory today. Dallas Pataska coming home with the W from start to finish, leading the most laps. The man who came home in second in his second straight top 2 finish after the win at Chicagoland to open the year is standing by with Christian. It's Richard Regan Jr.
Richard, we saw you come home second after starting 5th, and we were mentioning about how dominant Dallas was tonight, and we felt like nobody was really able to catch him. but it looked like you did a great job of minimizing the points lost, running a really solid race, and that has got to have been the goal, right? To just kind of minimize the points lost to him and get as much as you could tonight.
Yeah, I found out very quickly from practice that Dallas was on another level compared to me today. He said, like he said earlier, he had a lot of time to practice this week. I didn't have that much time, which is no excuse. He drove one hell of a race. But yeah, that was pretty much the goal after about halfway. I tried to stay out a little bit longer than him to try to get that one lap lead for the extra bonus point, but he barely got me at the line when I went down the pit road, so didn't get that, but I still came home with second. In a frustrating race, like Dallas said, very tricky to get up the S's, but we prevailed and came home pretty clean.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that pit strategy because we saw you stay out quite a bit longer than some of the other guys around you, and honestly, at the time, we felt like that might lose you a little bit of track position, but it seemed like where you made a lot of gains, especially on Corey Silva, was that he made a mistake on his pit entry and slid his pit box, lost himself up to 5 seconds, and you obviously nailed your entry, and you didn't do that and offset the time out on track, and you came out right near him and you were able to pass him. So it comes down to execution, and I think you did a great job of that. And obviously at the start we saw a little bit of issues that you looked like you were able to make it through, and you talk us through what you were kind of feeling at the beginning. Obviously starting 5th, you got guys around you, and you know the S's are tricky.
Yeah, the goal at the beginning of the race was just to take it easy. You don't want to be that guy that goes into turn 1 at Watkins Glen and kills the field. So I would have rather had backed up and lost 15 spots and wrecked somebody. I ended up getting into the 77 at one point while he was in 3rd or 2nd, which I didn't mean to do it. I just overjudged his braking point. That was the only incident of the race from me. I did see on the replay, though, on the first lap, someone almost wrecked going down into turn 1. So we got pretty lucky that it wasn't bigger than what it was. And for the most part, I think it was a pretty clean race.
Yeah, well, we were glad to call it, man. And again, congratulations on finishing 2nd. And before we let you go, is there anybody that you'd like to thank for your result today?
Yeah, James O'Brien, one of my teammates, giving me a lot of tips. He's a pretty good road course racer. Me and him going to be working together this year. Hats off to Dallas. He had one hell of a car, had this place figured out. But I'm going to try to get him next week at Bristol. I got to thank everyone that watches. I got to thank my sponsors, Multiple Sclerosis Society, Susan G. Coleman Craftsman, AMSOIL, Folds of Honor, and you guys for broadcasting, everyone from PRL for putting on the race, and all the drivers that come out and race every week.
Thank you, man. We're glad to have you here, and good luck for next round.
Thank you.
That was Richard Regan Jr. coming home in 2nd today. His 2nd top 2 finish after Chicagoland's victory. Corey Silva now joins us in the broadcast booth. And Corey, how are you feeling about your top 3 run today?
I feel good, but I feel a little bit disappointed. I feel like I should have been 2nd, or at least put up a better fight for it. But going into it after last week's disappointing result at Chicago, I'll definitely take a podium finish.
First off, let's talk about the run to the pit boxes there. It was a discussion point on pit entry and pit exit. What happened on your pit stop sequence?
I was, talking myself down the whole pit lane saying, don't mess up. And, I didn't speed and I didn't overshoot it, but I was just, about 2 inches too far to the right. So I had to back up and, shift a little bit further to the left. And at that point, kind of lost the edge that I had over Richard and kind of gave him the spot after that, unfortunately.
You also had a bit of diciness trying to hold on to the position, though, because there was a little bit of interesting moments with some of the traffic. Walter and Lane were battling for what was at the time for 16th position, and they nearly had an incident in front of you. What was your perspective when you were going to the bus stop and seeing that happening? Corey Silva, do you have a copy? Let's try this one more time. Apologies here. Corey Silva, do you have a copy, sir? I believe we have a technical issue. We apologize for that. Corey Silva, again, in a 3rd position finish for today. Hearing had a potential power outage, unfortunate for him, but a top 3 finish for Corey Silva. Your thoughts on this race, though, today, Christian?
well, I think it really was domination by Dallas Pataska, but at the same time, we've seen a lot of guys playing themselves in the championship consideration. For example, Richard Regan, he did a good job, got the points he needed, and I think a lot of guys, this is perhaps not kind of their wheelhouse, a road course, and I think they did a great job, and they definitely put a great show on for us, and I think next time we're back is going to be Bristol. That's, again, the 3 rounds that we're going to have covered, very, very different, each of them, and I think Bristol will definitely be a wild race.
The round that's in between that, we should know, covering the major series, the next Sunday. The race that's in between that is at Michigan International Speedway. What should those drivers expect at Michigan?
Well, I think with this package, it's definitely heavily draft locked for quite a good portion of it, and we saw that last season that there's a lot of 2 wide, there's a lot of ability to run 2 wide, and I think with this new tire as well, that's going to throw a little bit of a curveball at them. There'll be some consideration for tire wear, but at the same time, it's still a big track position deal, and I think we'll see really aggressive restarts and guys doing their absolute best to get out front, get that clean air, and then just hold on to the track position.
We'll have to see how they do. First off with the results in Michigan, then at Bristol when they go short track racing, and what should be a very interesting race. But we'd like to thank you for tuning in for tonight's exciting action from Watkins Glen International. We'd also like to thank the Precision Racing League for organizing this strong series, and it was a strong race to say the very least for their competitors. We'd also like to thank the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed up on your screen now. With additional thanks to Jude Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today in Christian and Sean. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including the upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. If you'd like to help support the channel, you can check out our merchandise for sale at gsrc.storenby.com. Or you can check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global SimRacing Channel, one word, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget to head over to our YouTube page and hit that big red subscribe button, as well as the notification bell, so you don't miss a moment here on the Global SimRacing Channel. As mentioned, the next round that you'll see on the Global SimRacing Channel will be on January the 19th, as we head to Bristol Motor Speedway for what should be a thrilling race on the short track. You also have upcoming races for other series listed up on your screen, so be sure to check those out and mark them down in your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.